Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey everyone, Duncan here. Welcome to another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where we interview leaders and founders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And I got my trusty co-host here, Arnell. Arnell, what's happening?
Hey, what's happening? Doing good.
Yeah, we got a great show lined up today. Why don't you bring us in?
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the latest episode of the Firebelly Social Show. We have a great show lined up for you today, talking with David, founder of purpose-driven organic snack brand Gutzy Organic. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer together through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
That's awesome. Thanks, Arnell. And I'm so excited to welcome you, David. David Istier from Gutzy. It's so nice to have you. Welcome.
Thanks to have us on the show, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is one I think that there's, when we talk to people that are focused on making us feel better, making the world a better place by focusing on how you can get your body to feel better. That's one I think that's close to our hearts, to Arnell and I. And you have had quite the journey. You're a French American entrepreneur, and
right.
You're taking on the world, man. It's like, tell us about it. Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about what Gutzy is. Let's start there.
So, let's start with Gutzy, and it basically stemmed from my own story, and we can backtrack on that. Gutzy is a fresh organic fruit and veggie snack that's good for your gut, with tons of great ingredients like dandelion and ginger, for example, and also prebiotic fiber, which are basically the food on which your good microbes feed on, so you can thrive and be at your best.
That's amazing. And how did you decide to start this company?
So before Gutzy, I actually moved to the US from Europe. It's funny because I'm French, born in the south of France and raised, and I only worked in France 1 year. I worked in England in CPG world in marketing for different food companies. And in 2000, I had the opportunity to come and work with an English gentleman to bring very unique healthy food innovation to the US market. And with that, I had a company from France that had a fruit squeezer like this one, like Gutzy here, and in a smaller format. And it was extremely popular. I grew up with it and so on and so forth. So I reached out to them and was like, guys, there's nothing here in the US. Like, you guys should check it out. And so I ended up launching it for them, big French food company, and it became a very huge success called Go-Go Squeeze. I'm sure if you have kids, you must have heard of it. It's pretty much everywhere across the US now. And so when I was at Go-Go, many parents were like, "Oh, this is awesome for our kids, but what about us adults? We don't have the time. We're busy. We don't have the time to eat. Like, how about using this format for us adults?" And that's when I basically said, okay, that sounds interesting. And I left to do my own stuff. And that's the start of the journey of Gutzy. But we're not called Gutzy initially. We are in the same format. It was called Energy Fruit. And the whole angle was to become the vitamin water of fruit snacking initially in a pouch for adults. And that didn't really go very well for us, to the point that, after having put all my 401k, friends and family invested and so on and so forth, we were almost bankrupt, and we could have been bankrupt many times. And I was like, what's going to happen? And I had this kind of burden because of this responsibility on my shoulder for everybody. And I really believed in the format of the pouch for adults. We just didn't have the right product in it. So at the same time, I kind of started to be very stressed out and kind of falling apart. My body, my mind, everything. I started having rashes, acid reflux, you name it, like totally just falling apart. And I ended up going to see an herbalist in New York to heal my body, and discovered the power of plants to heal my body, and also discovered prebiotics that I had no idea what it was before that. And that was kind of the aha moment of, okay, that's what we need to become with this pouch. And we became Gutzy about 5 years ago now. So.
I think that's so interesting.
What's interesting to me is that our company Firebelly is based on courage, and I think that there's a lot of overlap there. Gutzy and courage. I mean, I know there's a double entendre there, but I think I get what you're saying, which is like be courageous about your own health as well. So that's an amazing.
Yeah, and it's also for sure, and it's also not just about your health. It's also about what you do in life every day, right? We have a finite amount of time on this planet. It's like, well, what are you gonna spend your time doing? For me, it was believing in stuff that I'm passionate about and saying, okay, like be pragmatic, and this what we're doing currently is not working, but you don't need to give up. You just need to kind of like take the learning and pivot,
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of being Gutzy, not being afraid to change course and not give up. So
definitely.
Speaking of which, let's just Arnel, I know you got a lot of questions. I got one more question. When you were going through your troubles, and what was that like? Like, were you thinking? Because I feel like I've gone through that, and I know so many other people are probably going through that, right? Where you don't know what the hell is going on. You're like, I don't feel good. I'm sleeping. Maybe I'm resting. Maybe I'm hydrating, but you don't think that you're not eating right. Right? Is that a normal reaction?
Yeah, I think, when we get stressed out, which for a lot of us is often, in today's society, unfortunately, it's almost like a constant. You tend to get back into old habits or bad habits. And, sleeping, for example, can be a problem because your mind is like occupied with all those thoughts about, are you going to be okay? Are you going to make it? All those things, am I going to let people down? And then from that stem like more stress, and all of a sudden it's like your body or your bad bacteria is like, give me more bad sugar. I want this stuff that I crave, like this kind of food that's not good for me, and so you tend to kind of like go more for comfort food, which funnily enough is comforting at the time, but over time it's got a massive negative impact on you. And same with drinking. I love wine. I'm French. And, you tend to overindulge with all those things. So it's like a whole spiral of negative decisions that you kind of make, that your brain is kind of controlling, but it's more your gut. Everything is starting from down there,
Yeah. Why is gut health so important? So why I know why gut health is important, but what do you want people to know in general about gut health and its impact on just how you feel overall?
Yeah, so like gut health and the microbiome right now, it's a very, very popular subject. You see it even on TikTok. Yeah, it's gut talk and all those things going on, and so there's a lot of it's very trendy, and it's a good thing because I think there's more awareness going on, but there's a lot of noise about it too. Good and bad, like everything. It's very hard to understand, like if you're not in the subject, or you're not interested in it in detail, like what's true or not. And really, like the microbiome or the gut health really was this black box we had in the middle of our body before, where we knew there was some kind of digestion and stuff, but that was about it, right? It's where we process food, and you either kind of like it gets metabolized in your body, or you reject it and you go to the bathroom, right? Mm-hmm. And since the 2000 and the discovery of the completion of the genomes, has been an amazing amount of research about the importance of the gut for overall health. And I got very interested in it because obviously I stumbled upon prebiotic and plant-based foods, and from there I saw the transformation in myself when I followed a more plant-based kind of like nutrient-dense, fibrous-rich food diet. I started to be very fascinated about the field and started reading a lot about it, to the point that it's one of my passions now. I'm not a scientist, But I read a lot of stuff about the scientists that are involved in the process. And it's just fascinating to see the connection and more research coming out every day from scientists talking about gut health and the relationship. We're talking about depression, for example, and we all think that it's our brain kind of sending messages to our gut, and it's actually the opposite. Also, they communicate both ways, and the importance of taking care of your gut for depression, because a lot of the dopamine is created there. Yeah. So you there's so many topics now linked to the gut, from depression. You talk about digestion. You talk about protecting your immune system. 75% of our immune system is in our gut. And protecting that gut barrier not everything goes into your bloodstream. It's paramount. So I'm fascinated by the subject, and it's interesting because during COVID, I experimented a lot with my diet, and I probably went 75-80% plant-based, a bit too much, actually. It's always about balance in life, But I doubled down on fermented foods. Fermented foods are the real probiotic, the real stuff. I love kombucha. Eating all variety of what we call eating for the rainbow, colorful, diverse, organic, plant-based, colorful foods and stuff. And for me, it was really like I felt like I lost about 8 pounds without doing any exercise or very little. Not that I wanted to lose a lot of weight, but it shows you how your diet has an impact on everything that happened to you in that respect. So before COVID, probiotics were like the in word, like it was in kefir and in yogurt and so on and so forth. The pandemic happened, and I think the awareness of consumers saying, "Oh, I need to really pay attention to what I put in my body to make sure that I don't get sick and I protect myself," changed tremendously. And we've seen it with Gutzy, like our brand just took off with COVID, and like the whole awareness shifted from just probiotics to now prebiotics, which is what Gutzy is about. But just to make a distinction, probiotics are the live bacteria that we have in our body. So when you have a probiotic yogurt, something, you add some of those bacteria. The challenge is we have 100 trillion of bacteria. So when you have like a billion that you add, it's kind of a drop in the ocean. Probably a 1,000 different species as well, not just one or two, like lactobacillus and so on and so forth. And, a lot of those probiotics, when you have them into a supplement or into a yogurt, the acidity in your body basically kills most of it before it gets to your gut. So there's a lot of, there is some research for certain things on probiotics, but there's a lot of placebo there. And unlike that, prebiotics is really, like the research is very strong on it. There's different type of prebiotic, but it's really the food on which the good bacteria that you already have in your gut is gonna feed on and thrive to offset the bad guys. So for us, it's exciting to see that prebiotic is now kind of coming to a space where consumers are kind of realizing, well, that's good to protect my gut too, and there's a whole raft of product now, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, like prebiotic sodas now, like Olipop and Poppy, are growing rapidly. And so we are part of that kind of journey with those new brands where, we are offering something that's convenient. The biggest challenge is, people want to eat healthy or behave healthily, but nobody wants to make compromise. So, we say ideally we should all eat just wholesome raw foods. Unfortunately, we don't have the time or the energy to do that all the time. And so, it's like providing a solution, a convenient solution that's going to make people eat better. And I'm not saying, you should not eat a banana or an apple, but we also say when you don't have the time to do that, instead of taking a artificially sweetened snack that doesn't have any plant-based in it, well, you can have a Gutzy instead,
Yeah, I think that's, I love the idea of convenience, because I know those go-go squeezes, I used to buy them all the time, and sometimes I still do, but for that exact reason, because it was a little bit more healthy, it was easy, convenient, but I love the convenience of Gutzy.
And for us, it's also like the affordability. So it's a snack that's under $2, that's organic. It's a one serving of fruit and veggies in it. It's got all those great nutrients. And, it's hard to find snacks that are under $2 that are going to be good for you, and you can buy every day, kind of thing. So that's part of our mission, to make it not overtly expensive. It's I'm not saying it's cheap, but it's cheaper than a lot of stuff that you have out there that I buy kombucha and cheap,
Second, do you have a question?
Oh no, yeah. I think that education is probably a big part of your world, right? Is like educating people in a way that isn't preachy and isn't cumbersome, right? So it's like easy, digestible kind of education. Like, I mean, that's funny.
So to speak.
I did not mean that. I guess snackable education, right? So it's like, because people are so attention deficit, and so I think education is expensive, right? We were talking to a tahini brand the other day, Dana Harari, and she was saying about how bringing tahini to the United States, which is based on sesame, is so difficult because you have to educate people that this isn't something you eat once in a while at a Middle Eastern restaurant. This is something that you can eat every day. And so I guess, is education truly the challenge that the brand faces in general, or anyone in your category, really, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, so yeah, it's a great point, because education has a cost, especially when you're one of the first to kind of like pave the way. We know we don't have the pocket where you can really kind of like take like celebrities or pay for advertising and all those things. So for us, education comes in a different way. First and foremost, it's a location in the store, and educating the buyers that are, potentially making decision about like, oh, am I going to get this product on shelf or not? So one of the first thing we did was like, okay, we want to be in produce next to fresh perishable goods. This is where we're going to stand out. And also our product from being a fresher, like needs refrigeration. This is where we kind of add over, and you have this patch in there, not in grocery, but there. And then it's like it gets noticed, first of all. So you don't get like lost in the process. So that was like, how do we convince retailers to do that? Because they're like, well, are my shopper going to be ready for this product? And then the other one is trying to have a direct message that's not elitist in a way. So packaging, colors, and first and foremost, we lead with it's an organic fruit and veg snack, right? And the message is, you look at the statistic in America: overeating, undernourishing population, chronic disease all over the place. It's basically a big chunk of it is 1 in 10 Americans, 90% of Americans don't eat enough fruit and veggies every day. So our first thing is like, let's not complicate it. We're gonna lead with that, the fruit and veggie angle. And you have to make your product taste good. If it's not going to taste good, maybe people will try, but they're never going to come back. So that's the first thing we do. Lead with a message that's very simple about a need that's not being met today on fruit and veg. And then after that, you're like, by the way, if you don't eat enough fruit and veg, you aren't going to get your fiber that you need every day. Fiber is one of the most important things you need to have in order to be healthy. And that's what's part, our ancestors were more, eating more plants and stuff. And you look even now at there's civilization that haven't been touched, that are still living on their own. And when people are looking at their microbiome and DNA, they have very diverse microbes in them because they eat very diverse plant foods, So for us, the next message is, okay, fiber is very important. And you know what? Fiber doesn't have just to be for your grandma. It's not Metamucil. It's not like a laxative. Mm-hmm. It's paramount to your health. So that's what we lead with the second message, with fiber and gut health. So there are different hierarchies on how you have to educate people in a way that talk to them in a simple way without having tons of advertising dollars. Obviously, we use social media to relay that message to people. And that's a great way now for young brands that don't have a lot of dollars to do. But with that comes, there's a lot of noise out there on social media nowadays. Mm-hmm. It's hard to cut through and be noticed, So that's kind of our approach about education. And obviously our partnership are key for that. We have very strong partnerships with the US Rowing Association, for example, who reached out to us the head of sport nutrition reached out to us because she found our product. She felt it would be great for the Olympians. So we have now 3 years in a row a partnership with US Rowing. We attend a lot of their events. We sample our product. We tell the message about the importance of a plant-based diet with rich in fiber and prebiotics. So this is another way to educate people on the ground, and also with people that are professional athletes that needs great food to perform. It's very important for them.
Yeah.
So,
where do you source your ingredients?
So the majority of our ingredients are fruits and veggies come from the US. For example, our organic apple, it's big in Washington State. Our acacia come from Africa. This is where you have the most acacia. It's a Senegalese acacia, actually one of the purest form of prebiotic you can find. And also we work with a French company that does work as the acacia, and they've been around for a very long time. We have over 400 scientific research on the benefit of acacia on the body, and those guys are great partners to us, called Nixera, great company. Our packaging used to be sourced in Europe. Now, since the pandemic, everything is sourced in the US. We've also made a conscious effort to kind of the patch is still not fully recyclable. It's upcyclable. So we work with Go-Go Squeeze and TerraCycle to they upcycle the patches. The cap is recyclable, but we recently removed 30% of the aluminum in the product to make it more sustainable. And we're hoping that in the next 4 or 5 years, the patch will be fully recyclable per se as well. So 100% of our stuff, pretty much, other than the acacia, come from the US.
Very cool.
That's pretty amazing. These partnerships, you're looking at them, and we were so impressed with some of these partnerships. These are substantial organizations. Do you find that? Is it a like a lot of partnerships where the association gives you access to their audience? And I suppose what I'm wondering is, let's say to be, a rower at that level. You're controlling every aspect of your life. You're controlling your sleep, your hydration, your nutrition, so you can perform at that level. Even your rest is optimized. That's got to be a great partnership, because your people are doing things that are just incredibly challenging. And so the fact that you all are on this journey together seems to me like a win-win for both organizations.
Yeah, no, it's a great platform. We love US rowing and the rowing community. It's interesting because my father was a rower, French national rower, when I was younger, and I never got into it. I picked up a basketball, go figure, at 5'8". That's my love for the US started, by the way, with basketball when I was 6 years old, and we love the community. It's interesting because it's one of the community rowing which is. It's very hard to be a rower because it's not super sexy in terms of it's not mediatized. There's not a lot of money in it in terms of sponsorship, which probably is why it's still such a clean sport, and it requires a lot of dedication to get on a boat in the morning at 6 a.m. in the winter when it's cold and stuff. And that discipline that is required is really what speaks to us with Gutzy as a brand, that authenticity of loving what you do, and putting all the time and effort in it. And so we love that. And the response from the athletes has been phenomenal. We are sampling. We give a lot of Gutzy at events. The Olympic team has been training with Gutzy. The head of sports and performance nutrition and we do webinars together and stuff to educate people about gut health and plant-based diets. As well, and so it's been great for us, and we're seeing this kind of translate into, for example, before that, right around the same time, I get an email from this guy from the Buffalo Bills, and he's like, "We want your product," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna call him." And we talked, and it was a head of strength and conditioning at the Buffalo Bills, and he found our product at Wegmans in the Northeast, and he was like, "I want this for my athletes." So I was like, why do you need this for your athletes? Those guys are big, like they need protein. And he's like, they get tons of protein. What they need is clean carbs for the energy that they need to burn every day. And we are struggling to find good sources. And this is great because it's got no added sugar. It's all natural sugars from fruit. And that's where people get confused now about sugar. Everything is bad. Every sugar is bad. And not all sugars are created equal. We need a certain level of sugar in our body in order to function and get the energy and burn calories and stuff, So, it's just another example. And we feel very strongly about it. Like Duncan Robinson, who played for the Miami Heat, his agent reached out to us because he was on a call with him one day and he's eating a Gutzy and he's like, what is this stuff? And his trainer bought it at Publix because we are in Publix. So it shows like the powerfulness of the partnership that we create that are organic and authentic. Yeah. People come to us. And the other thing on partnership is, I think you'll be surprised, other than like US rowing, a lot of athletes, when it comes to nutrition, like you look at basketball players, for example. I mean, you take, for example, this kid that plays for the New Orleans Pelicans, which is an amazing athlete, but has a problem with his weight and stuff, and he's always injured. And he's always eating kind of soda, drinking soda, eating chips, all those things, So it's interesting to see, like, even with a certain type of athletes, like the understanding of what or why nutrition is important and stuff. And you had a lot of players like Chris Paul, for example, leading the way, and even LeBron James went plant-based because it's like, if I want to have longevity, I need to change my diet, So it's interesting.
Very much so. And I think it's interesting, not just on the performance standpoint, but what you mentioned earlier about the mental, emotional benefits of having a clean gut and just taking care of your body, totally.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so important.
But David, what are the percentages, that you see? I remember we used to work with a company that did plant-based, a version of like beef, and they had tacos, like tacos, carnitas, and it was all plant-based. And their point was they're not trying to get people to abandon meat. They're trying to get people to try something new and like change the way they're living, right? Is that something that you recommend, is like, hey, we're trying to get you to this percentage or that percentage, or is it a balance, or is it more like you should just abandon meat altogether?
Well, I think you look at the government as a new plate that they recently did, in terms of what should your plate have in it. And, 50% of it has to be fruit and veggies in it. Nowadays, they've changed, like the requirement has shifted quite a bit. And so, for us, it's like, and even for myself, I was like almost like, oh, I just want to become, I'm only going to eat plant-based. And it's just one of, I mean, and there's a lot of debate about it, about the lack of protein or the lack of complete protein with plant-based diets. There is a book that I recently read called The Plant-Based Athletes that actually challenged that. A lot of athletes, even like weightlifters, have been like on a plant-based diet. My take on it, after having experienced a lot, is I think if you have like a 60 to 70% plant-based in your diet, it's a good mix. I'm French, I still love cheese. Unfortunately, like this is part of, so I think it's all about like having a balance in what you do. And even with meat, I basically rarely eat red meat anymore because we know what's up with the research now on red meat. I still love a good steak though. So once in a while, I'm going to still have my steak, and very rarely, maybe once a month, not even, I'll have a bit of chicken and stuff, a lot less, more fish potentially in the process. But it's a challenge because, for us, it's like we're not trying to say like, oh, just don't eat meat anymore. I think it's a bigger challenge for brands that are actually like meat alternatives, and you see what's going on now with Beyond Meat and all those guys that there's been a lot of money poured in this, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's not what we thought it would become. And the problem is that I used to work for Corn Foods. Corn Food was one of the first meat alternative in the world. It's made from a fermentation process with fungi, with mushroom. And so when I was in Europe, we were one of the first to pave the way in that respect. And Quorn never pretended to say, hey, we want you to stop eating this. They were trying to eat more people that first were more like flexitarian and not trying to say to a steak eater, like, we're going to give you a better alternative. And that's a challenge now with Beyond Meat. They're like, we forget your steak. We're going to give you this. People aren't going to do that. You know, they ain't going to. And if you're talking to those people, you're not going to convert them. They're still going to eat their steak. They might not eat it as much as before, but they still want a steak that, and the whole bloodiness and the replication of the blood and all those things and the juice and the smell. All this stuff is like, it's not bad, but for a steak eater, it's not the real thing, you know? So it's very interesting, I think. And for us, you know, we're just trying to make people eat more fruit and veggies and make it convenient for them to do that. So it's a no-brainer, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with just keeping it clean, you know, doing simple food and veggies and not really focusing on trying to mimic, you know, something else, which I think is a totally different experience. And you know, I think what you mentioned about balance in your diet is so important because you said you've done it, you know, gone plant-based. I've done it. I've tried to go 100% plant-based, and I did it for maybe 3 or 4 months. And, you know, I was just doing the best I could. I didn't have like all the research or the sciences, but ended up going back to a more balanced diet, of course, with more focus on natural foods and, you know, whole plant-based foods. It's just good for people to remember.
You know, for sure, because, you know, at the end of the day, diets don't work. You can sustain any of this stuff if it's too much of an extreme, you know, if it's too hard. People are just going to give up. You know, it's like everything you try, like trying smoking, stop smoking or whatever you're going to do. It's just, you know, it's hard if you're just going to, you know, you have to find an alternative or you have to find a balance in the process, right? It's like life, you know, it's all about balance. We have up, we have downs, like don't get too high, don't get too low, you know, just kind of try to stay in the middle somehow, you know?
Yeah.
That sounds like a great song. I like it. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. I love it. Sorry.
It should be a jingle for Gutzy, you know?
There you go. Yeah. What would you say is your favorite Gutzy product? Gutzy flavor?
I know everybody says that about their brands. They love them all, but I love our botanical lines because it's got it adds a bit of a zing to it and a little bit of spice to it, you know. And so the botanical strawberry, blueberry, ginger, dandelion is my favorite for that aspect, you know. It's got such a great balance in it, and it's great for your immune system too with ginger and dandelion. So
yeah. That's cool. How do you normally enjoy them? Do you normally just take them on the go, right out of the refrigerator and into the car? Like, what is it normally?
So I have kind of different products for different time of the day. Like, you know, for example, in the morning, I fast. I do intermittent fasting. So great way to break my fast is with a Gutzy. You know, you have a glass of water and a Gutzy to prepare your body to have food. So, you know, with that, I will get, like, for example, this one, which is strawberry kiwi kale. It's got B and C vitamin with it. So it's a great way to start. It's very light. Or, you know, after, you know, you get a salad for lunch, you get one of those. And at night, I love the botanical line. I take all the product with me when I go play basketball, for example, or I'm on the go. But at night, the botanical is such like a smooth, soothing, you know, because of the ginger and dandelion. It doesn't have the B and C vitamin. So it's very kind of, you know, it's like that and a peppermint tea and you really go back.
Yeah. Very nice.
Tea for the win. Gotta love peppermint tea. Yeah, I mean, I think we need more people to go check your website out. Where tell everyone your website.
Yeah, so our handle for our website and our social is gutzyorganic.com. So gutzyorganic.com. And it's the same for handle. So Gutzy Organic on Instagram, Gutzy Organic on TikTok and Facebook. Yeah, go check us out, you know. And we'd love to hear more about the feedback. If anybody has any question, follow-up questions or feedback for us, would be happy to answer.
There's a guy that we interviewed last week, Arshad Bal, and Arshad is the founder of Amrita Health, and some of your comments really reminded me of him. All about sustainability and taking things one step at a time, and we're all immigrants too, so what a journey to come and not to just accept the status quo, but to make a contribution to American culture and to the American way of life. We really appreciate what you're doing, and Arnel and I both thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed the chat, so thank you.
Thank you for making the world a better place. Sorry, Arnel, go ahead.
Yeah, tell people where they can find your product in stores.
Yeah, so in store, that's the thing that is still a big education for everybody. We are in the fresh snacking set most of the time in the produce department. So where you see, sliced apple, and you see those dipping sticks and so on, and also those Del Monte fruit cups. Not far from like kombucha and the juices and premium juices. That's where we are.
Very cool.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Arnel, you want to take us out with that sponsor message?
Yes, absolutely. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more. Thank you so much once again, David Istier from Gutzy, and we want you to be Gutzy. Check out the product. Thank you for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.